And we are live. Welcome one and welcome all to the one and the only Junk Shop Library channel, home of Improv Bible Study, where our shtick is we read every single chapter of the authorized version of 1611 and then mercilessly rip at the new one it so deserves. Quick disclaimer. This channel is absolutely, positively, 100% not for children. We read the Bible, every horrifying word. So if you're under 18, you need to scamper your happy ass out of here. Go watch some Doc McStuffins or whatever the kids are up to these days. I see we got activity in the chat. Hello, Dave, and hello, Paul. I am keeping just fine. How are you keeping over your side of the pond? We are all social distancing like responsible adults, which means I have absolutely no excuse for not putting out more of these, other than just pure bone idleness. Just coffee. All right. So how are y'all doing? How goes it with my UK friends over there? It's probably a terrible lag between what I actually say and what I see in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye out on it. Paul says, getting ready to get into lockdown. Yes. Yeah, we're trembling in fear of that very thing happening here. Even us introverts have to get out every once in a while, don't we? Dave said, need bread. Yeah. Yeah, I have never seen so many empty shelves in my life as when I had to run over to the store to get some life-sustaining supplies yesterday. It was a fucking madhouse and a goddamn ghost town at exactly the same time. Paul says, I have JD and Coke. That is important supplies. That truly is. Alrighty. Let us see. All right. We will be finishing up the book of 1 Samuel today. Trying to think if I've got any more housekeeping I need to do before we launch into the good book. Uribench just became a channel. I used to say channel member, but now they have actual channel memberships, so I don't know what I'm gonna call. Subscribe. Uribench subscribed. Long time watcher. Appreciate you clicking that button, my friend. 200. Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, we'll be finishing up with 1 Samuel today. I don't think we'll go on into 2 Samuel. I glanced ahead a little bit, and it looks like 1 Samuel ends on a nice round note. So, we're starting with chapter 29. Let's jump right in, shall we? Now the Philistines gathered together all their armies to Aphek, and the Israelites pitched by a fountain which is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines passed on by hundreds and by thousands, But David and his men passed on in the rearward with Achish. Then said the princes of the Philistines, What do these Hebrews here? And Achish said unto the princes of the Philistines, Is not this David, the servant of Saul, the king of Israel, which hath been with me these days, or these years? And I have found no fault in him, since he fell unto me unto this day. And the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him. And the princes of the Philistines said unto him, Make this fellow return, that he may go again to his place which thou hast appointed him. And let him not go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he be an adversary to us. For wherewith should he reconcile himself unto his master? Should it not be with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sang one to another in dances, saying, Saul slew his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Then Achish called David, and said unto him, Surely, as the Lord liveth, thou hast been upright, and thy going out and thy coming in with me in the host is good in my sight. For I have not found evil in thee since the day of thy coming unto me unto this day. Nevertheless, the Lord's favour thee not. Wherefore now return, and go in peace, that thou displease not the Lord of the Philistines. And David said unto Achish, But what have I done? And what hast thou found in thy servant, so long as I have been with thee unto this day, that I may not go fight against the enemies of my lord the king? And Achish answered and said to David, I know that thou art good in my sight, as an angel of God. Notwithstanding, the princes of the Philistines have said, He shall not go up with us to the battle. Wherefore now rise up early in the morning with thy master's servants that are come with thee. And as soon as ye be up early in the morning and have light, depart. So David and his men rose up early to depart in the morning, to return into the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went up to Jezreel. There we have the rather short chapter 29 of the book of 1 Samuel. Oh, Paul's coming with the flattery. Says JD is the best thing to come out of the USA after Junk Shop. Thank you, sir. All right, so in chapter 29, what might charitably be described as fuck all happens. It's just politicking. Dave says he's not having a good few days, but he is alive. We celebrate this. Dave is a valued and valuable member of our community. We celebrate him being alive, rather, not that he's having a bad few days. All right. So, the princes of the Philistines, in preparation to go to war with Israel, come to Achish, the king, and say, here's the thing. We're not real comfortable going to war with Saul, Tall Saul, the king of Israel, if Tall Saul's erstwhile lieutenant is fighting on our side. Because I know he's in exile here with us, but we don't want to have to be fighting on two fronts. Not real jazzed about watching our backs while fighting on our fronts at the same time. And the king says, well, here's the thing. Ever since he's come here, he's been a strong ally of mine. And the lords of the Philistines says, yeah, ever since he came here, fleeing from Saul. But how do you know that wasn't just a long con? He could be hiding out here, spying out our weaknesses and checking up on our armies. Then as soon as we put him up in the line of battle with us, he could be turning on us. So the king says, well, I don't think that's real likely, but to keep you all happy, I will I will assuage your concerns. He calls Mr. David aside. Yes, O king, says Mr. David. Well, here's the thing, Mr. David, says King Achish. The lords of the Philistines, they're scared to go into battle with you because they're afraid you'll traitor all over them and massacre them all, which, in all fairness, you've been known to do in the past. David says, well, yeah, I've done some massacring of the Philistines and some foreskin cutting off for dowry stuff, but not in a long time. And certainly not since I came here. Remember, I was in terror of my life when I came here, because tall Saul keeps trying to kill me with spears and shit. And Achish, the king, says, yeah, I know, but they're scared of you. So you gotta go. You can't go to war with us. You gotta go back away. And David says, all right, makes sense. Not a lot to get your teeth into there in the riveting 29th chapter of 1 Samuel. Be honest, I don't know that I'd want Mr. David at my back either. He does have a tendency to do little massacres all over the place. And this is the guy God chose. The guy who decided to bring double the dowry of Philistine foreskins. Killing 100 fuckers and chopping off their dick sheaths wasn't good enough for him. He had to go up to 2 for his dowry. What is it with this Yahweh book and the damn foreskins, anyway? Oh, Paul says he's a changed man. He doesn't massacre anymore. That was the old David. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'll give him a chance. I will be more moral than the lords of the Philistines, and I'll give Mr. David a chance. He's got 2 more chapters to redeem himself to me, because that's the end of 1 Samuel. I take Paul's challenge. Give him a chance. I gotta change my banner. Don't know where that came from. Alrighty. 1 Samuel chapter 30. And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the 3rd day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away, and went on their way. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's 2 wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. Drink. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. Drink! And David inquired at the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, Pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and the 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. And they found an Egyptian in the field, and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he did eat, and they made him drink water. And they gave him a piece of a cake of figs, and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his spirit came again to him, for he had eaten no bread nor drunk any water 3 days or 3 nights. And David said unto him, To whom belongest thou, and whence art thou? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, servant to an Amalekite, and my master left me, because 3 days agone I fell sick. We made an invasion upon the south of the Kerethites, and upon the coast which belongeth to Judah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, Canst thou bring me down to this company? And he said, Swear unto me by God that thou wilt neither kill me, nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will bring thee down to this company. And when he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad upon all the earth, eating and drinking and dancing, because of the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines, and out of the land of Judah. And David smote them from the twilight even unto the evening of the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men which rode upon camels, and fled. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. And David took all the flocks and the herds which they drave before these other cattle, and said, This is David's spoil. And David came to the 200 men which were so faint that they could not follow David, whom they had made also to abide at the brook Besor. And they went forth to meet David, and to meet the people that were with him. When David came near to the people, he saluted them. Then answered all the wicked men and men of Belial of those that went with David, and said, Because they went not with us, we will not give them aught of the spoil that we have recovered, save to every man his wife and his children, that they may lead them away and depart. Then said David, Ye shall not do so, my brethren, with that which the Lord hath given us, who hath preserved us, and delivered the company that came against us into our hand. For who will hearken to you in this matter? But as his part is that goeth down to the battle, so shall his part be that tarrieth by the stuff. They shall part alike. And it was so from that day forward, that he made it an statute and an ordinance for Israel unto this day. And when David came to Ziklag, he sent a spoil unto the elders of Judah, even to his friends, saying, Behold a present for you of the spoil of the enemies of the Lord. To them which were in Bethel, and to them which were in South Ramoth, and to them which were in Jatir, and to them which were in Aroer, and to them which were in Siphmoth, and to them which were in Eshtemoa, and to them which were in Rachal, and to them which were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, and to them which were in the cities of the Kenites, and to them which were in Hormah, and to them which were in Chor Ashan, and to them which were in Athach, and to them which were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men were wont to haunt. And that is the 30th chapter of the book of 1 Samuel. Paul says, I told you he's a good guy. Yes, he only did a revenge massacre. Hi, Angie. Welcome, welcome. Dooley, dooley, doo, 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 doo. All right. So he did an attempted massacre, but not a full-on massacre, because 400 young men were on camels and went racing away into the desert, and so he was not able to complete his revenge massacre. So we'll call that tit for tat, sauce for the goose and sauce for the gander, and not count that as a full-on, you know, Jehovah-style massacre. It was just a partial one, and it was in revenge after all. Retribution. All right, so they find this dude in the field, starving and thirsting near unto the point of death. And they give him something to eat and something to drink. And once he's recovered his strength a bit, I say, "Who are you, and why are you starving here in this field?" And he says, "Well, hey, Amiga Nuts, welcome." It's like stopping smoking. You have to start slow. Yes, it's a very difficult habit, that letting go of your massacre-y tendencies. You don't want to go cold turkey. You need to wean yourself off of being a full-time massacrer. So the guy they found starving in the field says, "Well, I fell sick a few days ago. I was with that company of Amalekites or not of Amalekites. It was the Amalekites. Yes, the company of Amalekites that had smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire." Says, "Well, I was a servant in that company of Amalekites that fucked over Ziklag over yonder, but I got sick a few days ago, and they went on without me." David says, "Do you know where they went, perchance? And can you take us there?" And the servant says, "Well, here's the thing, I'm scared. I was with the Amalekites that fucked up your city and stole your wives after all. And I'm a little hesitant to take you to where they went for fear of getting all murdered and shit. So I tell you what, if you promise me before the Lord your God that you won't do a murder on me, nor will you give me back to the Amalekites, then yeah, I'll take you there." And David says, "You know what? That sounds fair. I'm fine with that." So he leads them off. How the hell he knew where they were going, I don't know. Unless they just talked so freely among themselves that he was able to just remember the directions to where they were going. Nothing in this fucking book makes any goddamn sense. So anyway, that aside, they find the rampaging Amalekite horde, and David does a little rampaging of his own. And captures back all the wives and the servants and the old folks and what have you that had been carried off as spoils of war. Takes back the livestock, the sheepses and oxens and assen, and not the camels. Because there's 400 sprightly young fuckers who jump upon the camels and ride them away full tilt boogie into the desert, and they can't be caught because camels can run really fucking fast. Yeah, Angie says, "Need some positive reinforcement." Yes, indeed. We all do these days. Although I assume you were talking about the quitting smoking and quitting massacring. So anyway, they murder all the Amalekites except for the ones that happen to get on camels and go speeding away. And they round up all of the various property, you know, the sheep and the children and the women and, you know, everything else you tally up on your tally sheet when you're counting how much shit you own. America love my ass. And they go back to the way station where they had left the folks who were too tired, worn out, or sick to be any use continuing on with a war party. When they get there, the people who had actually fought in the war say, you know what, we actually fought in the war. We put our damn lives on the line, slaughtering the Amalekites, except for the ones who got away on the fast-ass camels. I think we should keep all of the booty for ourselves. David said, that would be rude. We're going to divide all the spoils of war out evenly. In fact, we're going to make this a statute. Every time we do a massacre, we shall divide everything out evenly between the people who were the men, who were able to go to war, and the people, the men, who were not able, for whatever reason, to go to war. And that's been the law of the land unto this day. So, if you're a member of the Davidite army, and you don't fancy getting your head chopped off by some rampaging Amalekite, just make sure you come down with that corona a week or so, a couple of weeks before the war starts, and you can just stay your happy ass at home, social isolate for a while, and still get yourself some sheeps and oxen and assen, and who knows, maybe a couple of wives or slaves. All kinds of property coming out of the wars, you know. Oh, well, thank you. Angie says I look awesome in purple. Thank you so much. This shirt was a Christmas present. It's the logo of one of my favorite YouTube channels, Fight the Flat Earth. He does flat Earth debunking and debunking of other assorted weirdness and stupid. All right. 31. Little on the short side, it looks like. How long have we been going? Oh, not even half an hour. Cool. Oh, I've got a banner. I actually set up all manner of banners beforehand. If I'm not careful, I'm going to give you all the impression I actually know what I'm doing. Dave says, FTFE! Yes! Stupidity is not a right. (31) Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons, and the Philistines slew Jonathan, and Abinadab, and Melchishua, Saul's sons. And the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul unto his armor-bearer, Draw thy sword, and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through, and abuse me. But his armor-bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword, and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword, and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer, and all his men, that same day together. And when the men of Israel that were on the other side of the valley, and they that were on the other side Jordan, saw that the men of Israel fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities, and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. And it came on the morrow, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen in Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head, and stripped off his armor, and sent it into the land of the Philistines round about, to publish it in the house of their idols, and among the people. And they put his armor in the house of Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Beth Shan. And when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard of that which the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose, and went all night, and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth-shan, and came to Jabesh, and burnt them there. And they took their bones, and buried them under a tree at Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. And that's the end of the book of 1 Samuel. We all watch FTFE, it looks like. I see Paul, yeah. Angie says, the more you do it, the easier it gets. That's true of a lot of things. I wonder with regard to what? She said that. Sometimes I wonder if the whole chat actually comes through to me back here in StreamYards. You never know. All right, so that's the end of Tall Saul. I had just gotten used to putting that hashtag in my video descriptions, and now I will have no further use for it, because Tall Saul fell on his sword so that he wouldn't be slain by the uncircumcised. And his armor bearer got so freaked out by it that he decided to commit seppuku as well. And everybody freaked out and ran away. Cut off the head and the body will die. Oh, StreamYard. Okay, from when I was talking about the band. Okay, yeah. And the Philistines move into the towns that the Israelites had recently forsaken. And when they come out the next morning to pillage the bodies, what do they find? Behold, they find Saul's 3 sons dead on the battlefield, and Saul and his armor-bearer dead from the whole running themselves through with their swords business. And so they do what everybody does when you find that your esteemed and valued opponent has committed suicide. You cut off their heads and stick their body to the wall of one of your cities and stick his armor in the temple of a fertility goddess and send the head on a stick around to the various neighboring tribes so that you can prove that old Tall Saul is dead, dead, dead. That's the logical thing to do. Oh, Omega Nut says, what is with the foreskins? Yeah, that's an excellent question. Oh, you're back in Genesis or Exodus, aren't you? As you work your way through the back catalog. So between these episodes dealing with the reign of Saul and David and the instructions back in the instructional books, you just up to your eyeballs in foreskin lore, aren't you? Dear, 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 dear. Paul says if you're going to get killed, it's better to be killed by the circumcised. Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. You don't want to be slain at the hands of those dirty Philistines. That would never do. All right, so much for Tall Saul, the man God decided to put an evil spirit on because he didn't massacre thoroughly enough. The king of Israel, the first king of Israel, who kept trying to murder people with a spear and yet apparently couldn't quite manage it. Ah, poor Saul. I had completely forgotten that was how the story of Saul ended. As you can imagine, back in my Sunday school and church days, the The story involving Saul's body being spoiled by the Philistines and his head being cut off and sent around via the Wells Fargo wagon wasn't exactly a perennial favorite among the Bible school teacher crowd. Those chapters were shorter than I thought. We're at the 35-minute mark. What do y'all reckon? You want to launch into 2 Samuel, or do you want to leave things as it is and pick up again tomorrow or maybe the next day? I leave it open to my faithful here in the chat. I am open to either possibility. This was essentially what I had scheduled today because I'm social distancing. Dave's got to go in a couple of minutes. Angie's got to go in a couple of minutes. Amiga Nut says go for it. All right, Paul, what's your vote? Paul says go for it. All right, well, we'll launch in, since we've got a 50-50 tie in the chat, literally split down the middle of the audience. We'll go ahead and launch into the next chapter, and those of you who have to go, you will want to come back at the 36.5-minute mark and catch up with the rest of us, because you never know what kind of running joke spawn out of these books, and you'd be all confused and lost in the wilderness if you didn't watch the rest of it. Do me one big old favor and hit that thumbs up on your way out, anybody who's not sticking around for the rest. I appreciate that. Some people have lives and responsibilities and stuff. I got a life, it's just all of you. All right, I guess I should take down the 1 Samuel banner since we are no longer going to be in that book. That means I can delete that one. And I can delete that one. Edit. Wouldn't ever do to have an episode of this that didn't at some point involve me squinting at the screen, trying to put up a banner I'd done forgotten about. Oh, Paul says, oh, goody, goody, good. Amiga Nuts feels so appreciated. You're always appreciated, my friend. My #1 most interactive library patron he is. Alrighty. 2 Samuel, 1st chapter, 1st verse, and following. Now it came to pass. It is allergy season, y'all. I've been fighting back this same sneeze for about 2.5 days. I wish it'd go ahead and escape. Now it came to pass, after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had abode 2 days in Ziklag. It came even to pass on the 3rd day, that behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul, with his clothes rent, and earth upon his head. And so it was, when he came to David, that he fell to the earth, and did obeisance. And David said unto him, From whence comest thou? And he said unto him, Out of the camp of Israel I am escaped. And David said unto him, How went the matter? I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, That the people are fled from the battle, and many of the people also are fallen and dead, and Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also. And David said unto the young man that told him, How knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan his son be dead? And the young man that told him said, As I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me, and called unto me. And I answered, Here am I. And he said unto me, Who art thou? And I answered him, I am an Amalekite. And he said unto me again, Stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me. So I stood upon him and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen. And I took the crown that was upon his head, and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them hither unto my lord. And David took hold on his clothes, and rent them, and likewise all the men that were with him. And they mourned, and wept, and fasted until even, for Saul, and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite. And David said unto him, How wast thou not afraid to stretch forth thine hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? And David called one of the young men, and said, Go near, and fall upon him. And they smote him, and he died. And David said unto him, Thy blood be upon thy head, for thy mouth has testified against thee, saying, I have slain the Lord's anointed. And David lamented with this lamentation over Saul, and over Jonathan his son. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen? Tell it not in Gath. Publish it not in the streets of Askelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. Ye mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. But there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, the shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, and the sword of Saul returned not empty. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet and with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. How are the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle? O Jonathan, thou wast slain in thine high places. I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant hast thou long been unto me. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. How are the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished. There we have the very, very sad first chapter of 2 Samuel. Let's see. Critical Cripple says he's a oh yeah, Amiga Nuts is 100% a shill, and a greatly appreciated one. And also for Mama Atheist and Nervardia, and now Jen's Little Corner. All us little tiny, much in need of shilling channels with eccentric as hell protagonists. I see you, Amiga Nuts. I see what you're doing. All right, so first of all, we lead out the gate with an inconsistency of not inconsiderable size. As you know, we ended the last chapter with Saul falling upon his sword, and his armor bearer being so stressed out that he did the same thing, and Saul died. And then the Amalekites came and chopped off his head and sent it around by parcel post. Well, in this version of the story, in the very next chapter, I'm not familiar with the relative provenance of books 1 and 2 of Samuel. Obviously, they weren't written by Samuel, because Samuel's been dead since about a third of the way through Samuel Book 1. But old Saul is now dead and dismembered, and we just have a little bit of confusion and difference of opinion as to whether he fell on his sword and died outright, or whether he fell on his spear and couldn't get it all the way through himself and had to beseech a passing Amalekite to finish him off. A passing Amalekite who did the absolute Mensa inner circle genius thing of going over to David's camp and telling him that he had helped kill the suicidal king of Israel, with whose son David is known to be madly in love. And also Jonathan's dead too. David, perhaps unsurprisingly for a massacre-happy warlord, orders this messenger to be terminated immediately. And then, as is the custom in this time and in these days, he bursts into song. But before he does so, he orders his army to learn how to shoot with the bows and the arrows. I don't fucking know, y'all. It seems like every single character in the last significant chunk of this book is like Mad Woman in the Attic bananas. None of them seem to do anything logical. It seems to be just killing time between massacres. I don't fucking know. Well, this is where the "how have the mighty fallen" phrase comes from. And there's not much else going on. Uh-oh. My spine is coming off my book. Hello. Beyond "how have the mighty fallen" and the major contradiction of whether Saul killed himself or was done in by a helpful Amalekite, not a lot going on in chapter 1. Except, of course, for confirmation that Jonathan's love for David was wonderful, passing the love of women. So for those of you who come out and say I mean, not you, y'all that I'm talking to, but for the people out there who say that the Bible comes out and condemns homosexuality, nope! David and Jonathan! Right there on the fucking page. Nothing said about it. What are we up to? 47 minutes. How long is chapter 2? Is long. So I think we'll leave that on the cliffhanger to encourage folks to come back and do chapter 2 with us. Let's see, our wrapping up stuff. Amiga Nut says, you can't make this stuff up. No, seems like it was made up. Alrighty. Any final thoughts, allegations, disputations, accusations before we roll on out of here? Amiga Nut says, tease. You betcha. I gotta encourage folk to come back and join me one way or the other. Always leave them wanting more. It's the #1 rule. Alright. Well, we're going to wrap things up then. Everybody take care and be safe. I'm going to delete these banners because otherwise we're not going to have anything. Oops, I forgot to use that one. Hashtag blame MathPig. Use it every chance you get. And for anybody watching the stream after the fact who doesn't already know, I do have myself a little Patreon. It's a little dusty at the moment. I need to go in and brush it off and spiffy it up a little. But if you would be so inclined as to throw some coin of the realm my way over at Patreon, that would be immensely appreciated. Gonna upgrade this camera one of these days by hook or by crook and come hell or high water. All right. Paul says it's not really a love story, is it? What, the Bible? No. No, it is not. It's massacre fiction. Early days splatterpunk. That's what it is. All right. Well, we're going to roll on out of here, y'all. If you're not subscribed already, I'm going the wrong way. Poke the Pope to subscribe. I'll have my little graphic up there as soon as the live stream stops processing. Until we see you again for the second chapter of 2 Samuel. As always, everybody, take care, be safe, stand against hate, and wash your fucking hands. Seriously. And the broadcast checkbox. See you around, y'all.